The only asset in our lives that we cannot buy more of, but is the most valuable: time. Time is everything. It is just everything. And again, like, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm not making a generalization here. I'm just speaking from my experience. Time for me is the most valuable asset I have, and the only thing that I really cannot spend money on. I can't pay for more of the stuff. And so I've got to make it. I've got to literally make it. And the way I figured out how to make time is to get up before everybody else. I get up before everybody else. So I have, that extra hour and change to just be hyper productive, so that I'm only focused on myself. I'm setting myself up for success throughout the rest of the day. And then when the rest of the family gets up, I'm showing up like RoboCop. I mean, that's how I feel. When I walk back into the house at 6:30 in the morning, and my wife and kids are just getting up, and I've just done all these things, I'm like unpenetrable.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-hosts DJ Eitzen and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
All right, on this episode of Limitless Minds, we have Michael Chernow. He's a New York-based entrepreneur, chef, and fitness enthusiast, best known for co-founding the Meatball Shop and Seymour's, two popular restaurant brands. With a background in the restaurant industry and from a young age, Michael has built his career around creating community-driven dining experiences. He's also a passionate advocate for health and wellness, which inspired his latest venture, Creatures of Habits. You got to go check that out. It's a brand focused on nutritious products like the Protagonist, oatmeal. Through his work, Michael combines his love for food, fitness, and personal growth, sharing his journey and insights on resilience and well-being. Check it out. Well, we're back with part 2 with Michael Chernow. We talked, a lot about his story, this big word of endurance, and the commitment that breeds confidence, and so we want to come back with part 2, and here we really want to talk a little bit about, some of kind of what's going on now. From that journey, we kind of fast forward time, and here we are, and you have this really badass business called Creatures of Habit that has launched and has some really great traction and some really cool things going on. We'll talk a little about that. I'd love for you to share about that, and I also want to kind of understand some of the habits and daily routines that you're leveraging, and how that also inspires kind of the brands and the way you're impacting people on a daily basis. So I don't know, Michael, tell us a little bit about Creatures of Habit and how that was inspired and what that is and like where it's headed.
Sure. So Creatures of Habit is a lifestyle and wellness CPG brand rooted in nutritional healthy habits. And, for me, where my whole journey began, where the light in my journey began was when I was able to replace a lot of the bad habits that I was partaking in for good ones. And now I would call them great ones. But it really started with the commitment to nutrition and fitness for me. And, anybody who's listening that feels like they're struggling and they feel like they're potentially directionless or lost or just not sure, that they have the ground underneath them, I always recommend bringing it back to self. Right. Mm-hmm. Like if you're not at the top of your totem pole, and I mean, even with family, kids, wives, husbands, whatever, if you're not at the top of that totem pole, my experience is everything above you is going to suffer.
Yeah.
You need to be at the top of your totem pole. You need to be the most important person in your life, because when you can get right with yourself, then, and really only then, are you able to show up as the best father, husband, son, business partner, employee, all of it, right? That's just my philosophy. And so, and I was taught that. I was taught that by a couple of guys when I decided to get sober. these guys really said, you know, you've been at the bottom of your totem pole, dude. You're the last ring on that pole, and we need to slowly help you find the way to the top so that you can show up better for everyone around you, and especially yourself. And so it really started with making daily decisions, right? And typically for me, you know, we're wired to want to win. Human beings are wired to want to win. Like, and I'm not saying win the race or win the trophy. I just mean win, little small wins, little pops of serotonin throughout the day. And that gives us inspiration. That gives us the motivation to want to do things, right? Motivation only lasts so long. You know, you can't have, you know, Tony Robbins in your ear all day screaming at you. You know what I'm saying? You won't be able to get anything done. So you need to find ways to actually create discipline from that motivation. And for me, it's just been inconsistency and commitment to things that make me feel good, that are not bad for me. And so it's typically, you know, in the beginning of the day, right? Like I think about my day as every day I get an opportunity to build a structure, right? Every day I get an opportunity to build something that hopefully will stand the test of time, so that tomorrow I can look back on yesterday and feel proud. And so if I'm thinking about building my day to stand the test of time, you know, think about greatness on a daily basis, I'm going to want to pour that foundation with concrete. I'm going to want to pour it with something rock hard, rock steady, so that I can really build this structure upon. And because if I build on dirt, if it rains, that dirt turns to mud and that structure begins to slide, right? And so I'm looking to build on foundational concrete. And the way I do that is from the second I get up in the morning. I literally think of the beginning of my day as either I'm going to win or I'm not. And, you know, it's not about losing, it's about winning or not. And so I start my day right. You know, I mean, for years, I had this really sort of long list of habits that I would do every single morning. And I still do a bunch of them, but I've given myself some grace, you know, in certain times of the year, certain seasons of the year, where maybe I just want to focus on fitness. Maybe I want to focus on meditation, prayer, and journaling. You know, maybe it's a combination of those things, but I can give you kind of like what my mornings look like now. And, you know, I also want to say that, like, waking up early is going to change your life. So if right now, and early for me is 5 a.m. That's what time I wake up. If you're not waking up early, I would just I would encourage you to give it a shot for at least a month, because time is the only asset in our lives that we cannot buy more of, but is the most valuable. Time is everything. It is just everything. And again, like, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm not making a generalization here. I'm just speaking from my experience. Time for me is the most valuable asset I have, and the only thing that I really cannot spend money on. I can't pay for more of the stuff. And so I've got to make it. I've got to literally make it. And the way I figured out how to make time is to get up before everybody else. I get up before everybody else. So I have, you know, that extra hour and change to just be hyper productive, so that I'm only focused on myself. I'm setting myself up for success throughout the rest of the day. And then when the rest of the family gets up, I'm showing up like RoboCop. I mean, that's how I feel. When I walk back into the house at 6:30 in the morning, and my wife and kids are just getting up, and I've just done all these things, I'm like unpenetrable. You know?
It really is the best feeling in the world when, like, you've already kind of, you know, won the first, you know, let's call it, you know, first hour of every morning, first hour and a half, 2 hours every morning, and you get home and it's quiet, and like the kids haven't gotten up yet, and you're able to, whatever it is, make your coffee, eat, you know, have your meal one, whatever it might be, like, or send that email, you know, maybe hopefully you're just opening your phone for the first time, you know, after the workout or whatever it might be. Like, it's just such a great peaceful feeling when you've already won, you've already kind of stacked a win early like that.
I mean, that's that's been my MO. And I have a set of non-negotiable habits that I do every morning, no matter where I am, no matter how tired or not tired. Like I have a set of habits that I do not skip, and those habits are basically, I wake up first thing in the morning and I smile. That's the first thing I do every single morning, no matter how anxious I am. The first thing I do every single morning is I smile, a big ear to ear, shit eating, pearly white grin, and thank God for waking up alive. And I go into a quick gratitude list. It takes about 15 to 30 seconds. And immediately I can feel, if I'm holding that smile and I'm thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for, my wife sleeping next to me, my kids in the room behind me, my 2 dogs to my left, the house that I live in, the car that I drive, the business that I'm able to conduct, the friends that I have, the family that's coming for the holidays. Like I just kind of quickly just go through a list of 10 to 15 things that I'm grateful for in my life. And then I immediately get out of bed. I don't slowly roll out of bed. Like I get out of bed with intention. I sit up, I turn to my left, I throw my feet on the ground, I put on my slippers, and I beeline it to the bathroom. And I go to the bathroom and I take a piss. I wash my face. I brush my teeth. I put on my contact lenses. And then I drop down on my knees and I pray. And prayer is not for everybody, but prayer is certainly for me. It's the one thing that I've done consistently for the last 20 plus years that I can point to as an opportunity for me to connect with a power that I believe out there greater than myself that's got my back. And I ask for a lot of help. I ask for a lot of help. And, when I first got sober, the guys that kind of introduced me to this new way of living said, look, dude, we don't care if you believe in God or not. We don't care if you know who you're praying to or you don't, but we just know that you need help, young man. And the best way to start asking for help is in the morning, first thing, to a power greater than yourself. And that could be the universe. That could be water. That could be wind. That could be God. That could be Jesus. That could be, Allah. That could be whatever you want it to be. But you need to start asking for help. And this is the best way to do it. So I just got into the habit of getting on my knees every morning and praying, for help to help me, stay sober. And now that prayer has gotten a lot longer, and I pray for lots and lots of people. I pray for grace for a lot of people, but I pray right after I'm done with my prayers. I do 50 push-ups because I've read somewhere that men that can do over 40 push-ups straight have a 50% less chance of cardiac trouble, something like that. So I've been doing 50 push-ups straight every single morning for many, many years. And right after I do those push-ups, I go into a stretch and I stretch my body. I do down dog, up dog for 5 rounds, and then I do cat cow for 5 rounds. And that is basically kind of like the end of that non-negotiable morning routine. If I'm traveling, I'm home, whatever. If I'm home, I'll have 2 different versions of my morning routine. It'll either be Mike, the spiritual guy, or it'll be Mike, I'm going to attack the gym guy. And I kind of split it up. I've got a gym at my house that I could just roll right into and get after it. But I also have a red light panel that I'll do breath work in front of. I have a sauna that I'll meditate in. I have a cold plunge that I'll hate my life in, but I still do it. And then I've got positive affirmations. I've got a journal that I write in pretty much every day. And then of course I finish all that with Meal One, which is, my product that I sell, which is an oatmeal product that we'll get into. But basically, habits for me are everything. It is good. Your habits will make you or break you. And unfortunately, the word habit has been sort of looked at as a negative thing. Most people will say, man, I gotta kick this bad habit, man. This habit's killing me. It's rare that you say, man, I got the greatest habit in the world. I can't wait to tell you about my great habit, and I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change that because habits have saved my life. Habits have saved my life. And for many people, habits hinder their life. So I'm trying to flip the script on what habits can be for human beings. And for me, over the last 20 years, they've been nothing but awesome. And so, so back to the biz, I built Meatball Shop. we did really well there. I sold a bunch of equity in 2014 at Meatball Shop. And at this point, I felt like I had really got a crash course on what it meant to be a business person. Even though my skill set doesn't sit me behind a computer banging out spreadsheets, like I really understand kind of business. And so I thought I had what it took to open up a second restaurant concept. So I did that in 2015. I opened up a sustainable seafood restaurant called Seymour's in New York City. And I did the exact same thing. It took off like wildfire. I had a guy that was a mentor of mine knock on the door about a year in and say, hey, I would love to scale this thing with you. And, you know, he brought in a bunch of capital. And we scaled the company to 6 restaurants. And, you know, we were doing 8 figures, pretty decent 8-figure number when I was ready to sell my equity. And I did. And I sold a bunch of equity in 2019, right before the pandemic. And I knew in 2019 that my next venture was going to have to align more with my passion for wellness, fitness, nutrition, mindfulness. It had to be like, I couldn't work these late hours anymore. I couldn't miss a dinner with my family anymore. I was like, I just need something that's going to align with my lifestyle, which is that of, hey man, like, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how far gone that you think you are, doesn't matter, you know, how bad it is, you can change. You can change. I am a living, breathing, walking example of somebody that has come from the depths of addiction and misery to a life beyond anything that I thought was possible for me. And it all had to do with my commitment on a daily basis. And I wanted to create a business that was going to be able to say that. And so, you know, the pandemic hit. I was like, holy smokes, like, what am I going to do? I know restaurants so well. I was going to open up a wellness restaurant. And I hired an executive coach and walked through my life. And she was able to convince me that I'm a creative dude. And restaurant was just a medium for me. I could choose a new medium and bring my skill sets to a different business model. And so I did a deep dive, man. I spent, 3-4 months really trying to figure out what that was. And I was on a long run in upstate New York, and it just kind of all came to me. These guys, the guys that I met early on that really helped me sort of lead this new lifestyle, told me what to eat. And those meals were wins for me because they were healthy. And I didn't know what it meant to eat healthy at that time, but they told me to eat oatmeal every single morning. They said you can add whatever you want to it. Just, it's easy, it's satiating, it's healthy, it's accessible. Just get a big bowl of oatmeal in your stomach every single morning. Have chicken and broccoli for lunch and chicken and broccoli for dinner. And that was kind of the end of it. They were like, let's just keep it simple there, And honestly,
no meatballs, man. You got the broccoli, no meatballs though.
No, I mean, I treat myself with meatballs, but on the day to day, I'm 44. I actually, funny enough, I just got blood work done, so I take my health very seriously. I just turned 44, and I feel like I'm 25, and I just got my blood panel done. I get blood work done from this company that looks at 88 different biomarkers, and they just introduced this new biomarker, which is basically your biological age, where they look at your labs and then they compare them to everyone else's labs in the community that of this company. And my biological age came back at 26. So I was stoked about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man, I was really fired up about that. But So when I was thinking about this thing, I was like, man, it's right in front of my face. I've been eating oatmeal as my first meal every single day for, at that point, I guess it was 16 years. I don't get sick of it. I always make it delicious. Unfortunately, it took me, 20 minutes to make every morning. And I was on this run, and I was like, man, if I can figure out how to get my oatmeal into a pouch with my supplement stack every morning, which was always omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D3, a probiotic, and digestive enzymes. I was like, man, if I can get that all together in a pouch, honestly, I think I've got a business here. And not only do I have a business that I think will be powerful for people to introduce this easy to make nutritional win every single morning, but I'll be able to tell my story, right? My story is like totally correlated to this business because guys told me to eat that oatmeal early on. I listened to them. I committed to it. And not only have I built like this life that I pinch myself sometimes and I can't believe that I'm able to live, but like I've built my body. I built my, like, I'm healthy from head to toe. And I think that I do believe that it really starts with like the first meal of the day. Like when it comes to your health, right? Like, what are you starting with? Are you starting with a bagel and cream cheese and a frappuccino? Are you starting with a donut? Are you not eating anything at all? Or are you eating something healthy and satiating that's going to actually bring that's going to develop a neural pathway to positivity to make better nutritional decisions throughout the rest of your day. Yeah. And so I call it creatures of habit because ultimately I'm a creature of habit. And I believe that, you know, your habits will again dictate happiness or not. And I spent a year working on it. I pitched it to Gary Vaynerchuk. I was like, dude, I'm working on this thing. And he loved it because I also created a really cool line of apparel to go with it. And he was like, this is Kith meets Quaker, dude. Let's go. He wrote the first check and, you know, we raised more money. I launched the business. We just passed 3 years. And, you know, I'm really, you know, it doesn't come without pain and, you know, and endurance, you know, like there's times I'm like, oh my God, man, are we going to have to fold this thing? But you know, it's like, I'm committed to the last man standing, and there's a community of people that love this brand, that love the product, that love the mission. You know, we also raise a bunch of money. So, you know, because I've been able to tell my story through this business, we put on an event every year called We'll Wear the Weight. You know, addicts and alcoholics, you know, they get pigeonholed into this category of humans that's just kind of wasted, right? They're just like, people think that they're dirty, they're criminals, they're grimy, they're a waste of space, right? Like, let's just get rid of them. Like, they're walking around the streets like zombies. Let's just eradicate them. Let's get them out of the streets. Let's get them somewhere, put them on an island. Who cares? And the truth of the matter is that people don't understand is that addicts and alcoholics understand commitment and loyalty more than anyone, right? Because they're willing to do whatever it takes to get that drug or that drink. They will do anything. They will kill, they will rob, they will steal, they will do whatever it takes to get to that thing that they think is saving their lives, that they think is protecting them from life. Because a lot of addicts and alcoholics have mental health issues and also have a lot of trauma, right? And so they use the drugs and the alcohol to disguise those things. And I have a lot of compassion for addicts and alcoholics because I was with them. I was one of them, right? Yeah. And so when you strip away the drugs and the alcohol from an addict and from an addict, and give that person a map or a plan or a platform to channel that commitment and loyalty that they had for the drugs and the alcohol in a positive way, you know what the outcome is? Me. Yeah. I'm the outcome. Yeah. I'm the outcome. That's the outcome. Yeah. Because I know how to commit. Because I was able to commit to the drugs, then I was able to commit to sobriety, and then I learned, holy smokes, man, like I can commit to anything. Anything. Yeah. Yeah. And this is available for all people. I'm not saying this is only for addicts. I'm saying this is for all people.
I want some. Hey, listen, I'm about to order some after this, man. Look, I think my biological age is probably what, 32, Harry. So I need to get to 26. Like my regular age is 39. So I'm probably 7 years off.
So there's a lot of lies coming through his teeth there.
It might be a little older than that. But listen, I do need to get some of that. Real quick, because there's some things that you know, like I'm thinking about your journey and your story, and then I'm thinking about you said 7 and 9 year old boys, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, you went through all this adversity, you know, you figured out how to fall down, get back up, survive, be resilient, show grit, all the things you mentioned. How does your 7, and I'm asking this again, I have 5 kids myself, it's ages 6 to 16. And oftentimes what's me up at night is like, how do you teach your kids, you know, on how to be resilient when they live in a very comfortable, loving environment? What's your thoughts around that? What do you do with your boys to show them a path to success?
Yeah, it's an incredible question, and I've put a lot of thought to that because, I wasn't given a blueprint, right? Like I had to learn about grit and the grind and all of those things because I was forced to out of fear, right? And out of fear of being in my household. And these kids, I mean, they love being at home, dude. I mean, my kids, they do not want to sleep over at anybody else's house. Like we've tried. We're like, hey, Finn, you're 9. Like you can go sleep at your friend's house. I don't want to go. Yeah. Like they love being at home because we've created this super loving environment for these boys. This is my thought process, right? I am a grinder. I just am. My sons see me work out 6 days a week. They know that, and I've gotten, and one last thing that I want to just, well, not one last thing, but something that I'll just say for any entrepreneurs on here or aspiring entrepreneurs. One thing that you need to do, because you are given your own schedule, like there's a lot of glamour and vanity and whatever around this entrepreneurial lifestyle. The truth of the matter is it's really, really hard because if you don't create balance in your life, you are going to burn out and everybody's going to suffer. So you have to have a start time and an end time every single day. This is from my experience, what I've learned. And if you can't do that, your family's going to suffer. Your business is going to suffer. It's not going to work. So my boys now see that, I work my ass off every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And at 6 p.m., I shut it down. I don't open it up. I'm not on the phone. I'm with the fam. And, the kids, they're in a couple of sports. And so, most kids are like, they're, unless they're like really hooked, like they don't want to go to karate every day. They don't want to go to soccer practice. In my house, it's not a, hey, okay, no problem. It's a, buddy, we've committed to this. We made a decision in the beginning of the season. Either you're going to do it or you're not. I gave you the choice. I'm not forcing you to do anything you didn't want to do at the time. But now that you've committed, we show up. We show up. You can cry all you want, and just know that I love you to death. But we're getting in the car and we're going to soccer practice, bud. And I think that's important. And I also think like, the old school way, right? Like you put a sheet of paper up on the kitchen wall that's just got Monday to Friday. You get the weekends off, and you've got some chores, and those chores get done. And if those chores get done, you get rewarded, like life, right? Like if you get those things done, you get rewarded. But if you miss one, no rewards. You're not getting any rewards. So you got to commit to the schedule. And so we do that at home.
That's good.
But one other thing that I just noticed, not noticed, but, I have observed, and I posted about this not long ago and it went absolutely viral, but I believe it to be as true as day. Our children, especially at younger ages, don't care about how much money we have. They don't think about our bank account. They don't care what kind of car we drive. They just know that they're getting in a car. They don't care about how big your house is or how small your house is. They don't care about the clothes you buy them or the clothes you wear. They don't care about the sneakers. They care about your attention. They want your attention. They want you to look at them when they talk to you. They want you to be watching them when they're playing sports, not on your fucking phone. Pardon my language. They want
your that out. We got you. We're good.
I will leave it.
That's right. Or we can leave it.
The attention for young children is currency for them. It is the most important thing in their lives. The attention from their mother and father. And with all the distractions we have in our lives, the phones, the computers, the business, the hyperconnectivity, all that stuff, that makes us being able to be attentive way harder. That said, just know No money in the world will make your child happier than your attention for them. And I know that to be true, you know, and I learned that because I walked home. This is probably about 3 years ago. I was coming home and I was stressed out, and I walked into the house and I was on my phone and I was like trying to get the last email out. And I'm standing there at the kitchen counter, and my 9-year-old at that time, he was 6 years old. He was trying to tell me a story and about school or something. And I was like on the phone, and I looked over and I was like, Finn, don't you see that I'm doing something here? And he looked at me and just immediately started crying and walked away like super sad. And I stopped myself and I was like, oh my gosh. Who am I to do that to my son? Is this email more important than the thing I love most in the world? Is this possible? And that happens every single day, all day long, between parents and children today. And so I felt it necessary to mention that on this.
No, it's good. I think it's really good. I think it's something we all need to hear. It's amazing. You know, you go into your utilities and you look at how much time you spend on the phone. You can justify it any way you want. You know, I'm looking at emails or text, but the reality of it is the numbers don't lie. And that number is much greater than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so being aware and intentional about how we're spending time with kids, I think it's a powerful point. I'm glad that you brought it up. Really glad.
I mean, it's the same, you know, it's very similar with our spouses and partners as well. It's like, you know, I'm guilty of this because I was noticing it last night. So we got the kids down bedtime. The bedtime rituals are like, you know, they are like robust, man. Like, you know, each kid has their thing that they have to do with mom in particular or dad. And then, so then we're done and it's whatever time, 9:30 at night. And so now it's just her and I, right? And I look up and like the TV's on, we're just kind of watching like college basketball, like Duke, Kentucky, I think, right? And then, but like both of us are on our phones, probably just doom scrolling on TikTok or looking at emails, whatever we're doing. And just like, this is our opportunity to engage. Like we haven't seen each other all day. The days were busy. And then we're sitting here for 30, 45 minutes, like not saying a word to each other.
John and I, we have completely instilled or implemented a 10-minute only phone policy after the kids get down. That's it. We if she goes, she puts them down or I put them down, and then we get on the couch. We have 10 minutes to check in on our shit because we don't look at our phones between 6 and 8:30. And 10 minutes is what we get, and then we shut them down and we cut, you know, and that's the thing I would just say, like, you know, and this is something that I noticed that I had to become way more mindful of with my partner, my wife. You know, it's very easy at night to just sit on the couch with your partner and just be next to them, right? Like you watch a show, you're just sitting down next to them. I noticed that, like, wait a second, like if I'm next to my wife, we've been together forever. If I'm not touching her, she might as well just be my damn friend. You know what I mean? Like she might as well just be my damn friend.
Yeah.
Intimacy in a relationship, I think, is so important. And it honestly, after a certain period of time, it is kind of one of the first things to go in long-term relationships, right? Like, you know, I've got friends that are in marriages or in relationships long, they're not even having sex anymore, you know, and you know, everybody has their thing, but if you are that person, just know that you're not alone. Like it's very common. And so intimacy has to be intentional. Again, it comes back to the commitment piece. So every single time I am next to my wife, whether we're walking down the street, in the car, on the couch, in bed, even though after about a minute, we kind of gravitate to our own sides of the bed, I am touching my wife. And it doesn't have to be in some weird, you know, funky way. I put my hand on her leg. I grab her hand. I put my hand on her shoulder. I'm touching her. I'm connecting with her in an intimate way. And it takes no energy from it's just a reminder, commitment, dude. You're with your wife. This is your lady. This is your love partner. Like, touch her. You're with her.
There's a lot of science behind that too. And serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine kicks off. You know, especially I think it's after like 20 seconds of touching your spouse. So yeah, that's
DJ
really
did this research because he just went on a trip to Mexico with Jess.
Yeah, and, I might have. Right?
Google search.
I might have touched my partner for longer than 20 seconds.
Fresh off the trip. You know what I mean? And listen, I better not hear about
this podcast.
I better not hear about baby number 6 on the way, man. I just better not. We got work to do, man. We don't have time for all the other.
That's right, man.
I love that data was fresh on your mind, DJ.
It was fresh on my mind, man. It was fresh.
Yo, look, man. The truth of the matter is that like it can get lost, right?
There's no question.
Long-term relationships, and if you're not intentional about it, even if it's uncomfortable, right? Like, for anybody listening that's in a long-term relationship that feels like their intimacy has fallen to the wayside, I'm just here to say, be the one to initiate, even if you feel uncomfortable, like even if you don't feel like it's going to get put through, like we have to break through these barriers, right? And I promise you, like, if the person that you're with is your life partner, you'll work through it. You'll work through it. Yeah. I will say that, like, if you're not intentional and you don't, take action, that's when, you might as well be living with your friend. And that's okay, with a roommate, but we are intimate beings.
That's right.
And we are, like, there's no better feeling than coming off of, like, making love to your partner. I mean, it's just, it just is, and it doesn't have to be hot and heavy. It's just like that deep connection is important. It's important.
Yeah. Well, like you said, man, you said it a couple of times, and it just kind of keeps coming up through both part 1 and part 2 of our conversation with you, is these common threads of like endurance and commitment, right? And kind of making really intentional choices, whether it be, in our habits that we're forming, whether it be in the relationships we have, both business and personal relationships, and so so I just think I love what you said also about, the creature of habits business being like really important because of that common thread too around like what's your journey, your personal journey. Because I know this being a founder, I know DJ does, whether you're seeking investment or whether you're telling the story from a brand perspective or whether you're just doing the daily work that's difficult to do, like when it's really tied to like your personal mission and story,
that's right,
the authenticity is off the charts. And when the authenticity is off the charts, there's just a believability in like what the product or what the what you're selling, right? And so I love it, man. I really appreciate you taking a bunch of time with us and just sharing your personal story, man. First of all, your personal story is unbelievable. And I know there's even, you could do a whole episode you could do like 3 episodes on your story, right? I mean, it's amazing, but also the habit stuff and like kind of, giving some advice to the listeners, man, is really good. And we just look forward to kind of continued partnerships and relationships with you, man. I mean, we have a lot of respect for you and sure. Looking forward to just watching you guys grow and hopefully growing together. So we appreciate you, man.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks,
yeah.
Thank you so
much.
All
right. Well, thanks for joining another episode of Limitless Minds. Remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.